which you will learn. I thank you for coming, and I hope we have a beautiful meeting. Stay blessed, and thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, without waste of...
Victor, is it okay if you have somebody else share the screen? I downloaded it, but I cannot see it. I tried downloading it. It said, you want to replace the other one. I click replace, then I go to my Finder. I cannot see it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Let me...
Nanching?
I don't understand.
Nanching, can I make a suggestion here?
Okay.
If you are the admin of Zoom, could you please enable a function where any new participant who is entering the meeting automatically gets muted, as in the background.
Okay, I'm also a co-host. I think all of us are co-hosts now. All co-hosts.
I will do that. I will do that.
Okay. Yes.
I think I make a terrible admin on Zoom. So we are so glad to have Upasana here to help us do this.
Okay.
I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm here then.
Okay, so Mr. Victor, is your slides okay now? Or do we need to?
No. Future relationship, I had a diagram. It's not appearing. On reparations, again, the diagram is not appearing. On reduction of animosity, again, it's not appearing.
Okay, Upasana, I believe you have the slide.
Yeah, so I made my own slides, Nanchan. I'll share it from mine. Yeah.
I mean, the slide of Victor, I've shared it. Do you have it?
I have not. Why do you ask that? Do you want me to do something with that?
Okay, yes. He is sharing from his end. It seems some slides are missing. We want to just verify from your end if maybe it is from his side or a general problem.
Okay, so Victor, so let me ask. So Victor, when you save the file, did you save it in a PDF?
No, it wasn't in a PDF form.
That's why.
Okay, I see.
If it's saved in PowerPoint for some reason does not always get the pictures to come on Zoom. You have to save it in PDF file, which is a complete platform for all type of videos.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, PDF locks the whole entire file, and it locks all pictures down in the file as one complete document.
Okay.
One thing can be done, Joseph, and please tell me if I'm wrong. If Victor shares the Google Drive on which he made the PPT, Victor, did you make it on the Google Drive on the Google Drive or no?
No, I just used my PowerPoint.
I'm seeing the diagram on my end.
Yeah, but that's what I say with YouTube and Zoom and all those other platforms. For some reason, they don't recognize PowerPoint all the time. They always seem to have some little conflict.
Okay.
Some sort of an intellectual property issue.
Yeah. So you have to save it as PDF. PDF, it's universal. Okay. Every system has the PDF code embedded.
Okay. I think the problem is gonna be for the participants, because I think I can still go, without the diagrams or not.
Okay.
If you can take a screenshot of that, Victor, and share it in the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
I can see one Venn diagram here.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see. I will.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So. Um,
Alex, I'm good to run.
Okay. I have I just downloaded it.
Okay.
And, let me share from here and see.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So let me join. Okay. All right. So we have okay. So well, for those who are just joining us, you're all welcome. It is my delight to have you all here. This is 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes ahead of our starting time is good enough for those who may want to join. And without waste of time, we want to proceed to with the webinar for today. And we want to thank you all, especially our resource persons who made out time to be with us. Yeah, morning, afternoon, evening. We are really delighted to have you on this platform. And for our participants all over the world, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, my name is Nanchang Nangwang, and I am happy to have in our midst Upasana, Mr. George, Mr. Victor, and Francis. Yes, from India, from Florida, from DC, all in the United States. And then Victor is presently in Nairobi, Kenya. So we're happy to have you all around. I am also proud to announce that we are privileged to have all of them here as specialists in ADR, and they are going to be taking an aspect that is very, very crucial and important in mediation. We are going to start with our main speaker, Mr. Victor, and
excuse me, Mr. Nanchan. Can you just mute any other person that is not speaking? All microphones should be muted, please. There's a serious echoing from the background. Only the participants should leave their mics on, please. I mean, the resource persons, I mean to say. Thank you.
Nanching, you are on mute. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Rosiana, we can hear you. I was talking to Nanching.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I said only those that are speaking, the resource persons should be on microphone. We should mute all our microphones. There is echoing from the background.
Yeah. So I think what she's trying to say, Nanchang, I think in your room, there are two devices. If you are joining from a laptop and a mobile, then please.
Nanchang, if you're using two devices, put off one, please.
Oh, I see.
All right, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. There is an echo in your background. Do one thing. If you are joining from your laptop, just mute the laptop. Not only mute, just reduce the laptop's volume to 0.
All right. Okay. That will be done. So the laptop is mute. All right, so, but is it okay now?
Yeah, I think we can proceed, Nanchang. Anyways, Victor has to speak.
It's okay. Can you hear me now?
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is okay. Mr. Victor, this is a slide. Can you confirm if you can all see it?
Yes,
Okay.
it is getting started. Yeah, we can.
Oh,
All right.
beautiful.
Good. Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that's good. I think it captured everything.
Yes.
Great.
Perfect.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good. Okay, so without waste of time, by way of introduction, we have our very own Victor, who is going to start up this conversation for us today. We are happy to have you here. And for those who do not know Victor and who were not part of our initial conversation, Mr. Victor is an ordained minister and a marketplace emissary. In his generation, he is an alternative dispute and dispute system designs consultant and a mediation trainer with James Weston. Yes. He is a John Weston Fellow and an intern with distinguished mediators and arbitrators at the JAM offices, California, United States. Mr. Victor is he is an intercultural mediation specialist. He's also a family mediator, a community mediator. He has 6 years experience with different entities, including mediation firms and institutions all over the world, talking about Nigeria, United States, Kenya, all over. And he has experience in working with FIDA, International Federation of Women, Female Lawyers in Kenya. He is an advisor to the rector and visiting lecturer at the Global University of Somalia, and is an empaneled faculty for mediation hubs, just as I mentioned, all over the world. In fact, he is a trainer, a facilitator, and a member of the faculty. Is a member of the panel of neutrals of Settlement House ADR Training Institute, as well as ACOTS International, an ADR organization which is based in India, where he trains and mentors mediators all over the world. At present, he is an instructor and research fellow at the Institute of Public Policy and International Affairs House at the United States International University. Please, can you join me to welcome Mr. Victor as he begins this conversation? We are going to introduce our other panelists after his conversation. Thank you, Mr. Victor.
Thank you so much. All protocols observed. First and foremost, I'd like to extend an appreciation to Settlement House ADR Training Institute. In a like fashion, I'd like to say my thank you to CODS International, obviously represented here by Upasana. It's always good to have you around and get to hear your insights on this. And number two, I'd like to extend my gratitude to my colleagues as well. Francis Ojok joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for creating time. We have got Joseph George plugging in all the way from Miami, Florida. Thank you for creating time. And of course, thank you, Upasana, joining us all the way from India. My gratitude to you. And last but not least, my special gratitude goes to all our participants today for carving out time just to be here with us. With that off my chest, I'd just like to say maybe what you would call a preamble statement. And my preamble statement goes this way, that we're living in times where the entire justice sector is going through some form or kind of transformation. We're living in times where everyone seems to be talking about a human-centered approach to dispute resolution. And I think this is just our little contribution towards human-centered dispute resolution. For far too long, our justice systems have been pegged or premised on a competitive or an adversarial system, if you like. And that hasn't been the best approach so far. And so I think it's an interesting discussion to have, a human-centered approach to dispute resolution. And today we will get to contribute towards that debate from a forgiveness point of view. And with that said and done, our agenda today is straightforward. We want to look into what forgiveness is all about. Trust you me, I forgive you is not as simple as it sounds. I forgive you has a multitude of meanings that can be extracted from that statement. I'm sure as we get along, we will get to look at what I forgive you meant. There are these 10 letters, if you look at it, 11 letters, but the meaning is profound and deep. And I'm sure we will get to have a look at that as our presentation unfolds. And then we'll get to look at approaches to forgiveness. And what do I mean by approaches to forgiveness? These are ways that we get to extrapolate on what forgiveness is all about. And today we will get to look at 3 approaches to forgiveness. The first being therapeutic. And I want to mention this, that there are therapeutic properties to forgiveness. And then we'll get to look at a relational approach to forgiveness. And here what we are saying is you are restoring somebody to a position that they had prior to a harm or an injury that has been occasioned to you. And then number 3, we'll get to look at what I call the redemptive approach to forgiveness. And those of us that subscribe to faith in one form or the other will agree that there's a redemptive quality to forgiveness. And with that, then we'll get to look at typologies of forgiveness. And by typology here, I mean models of forgiveness. Again, we have various and many models of forgiveness, but because of time sensitivity, we will get to look at 3 models of forgiveness. Number one, we'll get to look at reparation. There's a reparation a standpoint to forgiveness. There's a future relationship. And then, of course, we'll get to look at animosity reduction as a model of forgiveness. And then we'll get to look at encouraging forgiveness. Lawyers, how can lawyers encourage their clients to forgive the other party and so on and so to speak. And then we'll get to look at mediators encouraging forgiveness. And then I'll get to have my colleagues, at this point in time, chime in, plug in, and get to share their insights on the same. And then we have, last but not least, my references. I've made a habit of starting my references. Before I start my presentations, I always start by acknowledging my references. We have got, of course, we've got Peter Robinson. Peter Robinson is a renowned professor at Pepperdine University. Francis Ojok, I know you must be knowing him. It's all right. It's all right, Mr. Nanchang. You don't need to go to them. I know them off. I know them off my head. And then we have Lazare Aaron, again, who is a renowned specialist when it comes to apology. And then we have got Fred Luskin, who is an enormous figure when it comes to forgiveness. He has spearheaded a forgiveness project at Stanford University that's based in the US. And then I have Tian Dayton, who has authored amazingly on the concept and subject matter of forgiveness. And with that, I'd just like to straight away take a dive into my presentations for the day. Mr. Nanchang, I saw your portrait. I saw your portrait on your wall, and I'm just curious to know: are you a recovering lawyer? Are you recovering?
Yes.
You still have your portrait of, an advocate. So I'm just curious to know: are you recovering?
Well, we combine the two using different faces.
Okay. I'm hoping that towards the end of this presentation, you will have fully recovered to a mediator from an advocate.
Yeah.
But that's just on a light note. That's on a light note. Thank you for that. So what is forgiveness? And here I have a number of questions to inform my discussions for the next 3 minutes. What's forgiveness? What does it really mean when I say to Nanchang, I forgive you? Because on the face of things, it looks like a straightforward communication. But trust you me, it's not a straightforward communication, because it could mean a lot of things. I could tell Mr. Nanchang that I forgive you, but I've not forgotten about it, or I don't plan to forget about it. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to get at is that forgiveness is such a broad concept that is dependent on a number of things. Number one, context. Number two, the intentions of the speaker. When a person tells you, I forgive you, it's important that we get to critique that. We need to critique the context of that. We need to look into the thoughts of that person, and so on and so to speak. And so, in simple terms, this is what I mean by forgiveness. It's the act of letting go of grudges and healing. That's my simple definition of forgiveness. Others have described forgiveness as an act that restores a person to a position prior to the offense occasion. And to me, this sounds like a redemptive forgiveness. When somebody tells you that I forgive you and I am willing to let bygones be bygones, I am willing to bury the hatchet. The hatchet, what they are telling you is that, I'm reinstating you to our prior relationship before you cause harm to me. And at times, it's really important that we get to critique that as well. Because with harm, we get to have people suffer from what they call the Stockholm syndrome. And I know Upasana maybe at some point will get to talk much on the same, because it's important that we get to look at the concept of forgiveness with a critical lens as well. So I want us to have that somewhere at the back of our mind. And then this brings me to my second question. Is an act of forgiveness unilateral? Or better yet, should it be unilateral? And by unilateral here, I mean, is it an act that is by one party? And the second part of the question is that, is it a mutual activity? And by a mutual activity, I mean, should a party extend an apology for that apology to provoke an act of forgiveness? And from our previous proceedings, we got to take a look at what an apology is. When somebody says, I'm sorry, what does it really mean? And from our previous conversation, we mentioned the fact that when somebody says, I am sorry, they seem to be communicating two fundamental things. One, they are communicating the fact that they have caused a wrongdoing. And number two, what they seem to be communicating is that this wrongdoing has occasioned a harm to somebody. Now, if I have stepped on the foot of Mr. Francis Ojok, I need to let him know that I am so sorry for stepping on your foot. And again, I'm sorry that, I have harmed you. That is what an apology constitutes. And with that in mind, I'd like us to get to our third question. And this is very important. Is forgiveness a fruit or a product of a decision making? Is it a product of a cognitive process? And by a cognitive process here, I am implying, is it a decision that is a product of a mental process? And at times you'll hear people say such statements when they are hurting. I would like to forgive you, but I don't feel like I'm in a mental space to do that. So that speaks to the fact that forgiveness, there's a mental, cognitive approach to forgiveness. And then the other second half of the question is it a gut feeling? Is it a product of emotional healing, and so on and so to speak? When somebody says statements like, I want to forgive you, but I don't feel like I am emotionally ready to do that. Right? So there's an emotional facet or layer that is involved when we get to say that, I forgive you. And in my consideration, forgiveness involves both attributes. There's an attribute of your mind that is involved when you are making such a statement, and there's an emotional component to it. I am a man of faith, and we get to say that the human being is constituted of three fundamental components. The first component is your spirit. We all have our spirit person. And the number two, we have our soul. And our soul is very vast. Our soul is comprised of the intellect, the human intellect. We have your emotions, and we have your human will. And in my humble submission, when somebody says they forgive somebody, I think what ought to happen is that there needs to be a consistency and an alignment of both your intellect, your cognitive faculties, and your emotional faculties, so to speak. So that's the best approach to understanding what forgiveness is. And then that brings me to my final question on these slides. Is it an event or is it a process? When somebody comes up with a statement like, yesterday I forgave you for what you did to me. In so many ways, that sounds like an event, right? And the other better part of the question is forgiveness a process, right? When somebody comes out and says that I'd like to forgive you, but But there's a big but. That tells you that it's a process. They need to sit down and synthesize. They need to process, what's happening to their human soul, what's happening to their body. Because all too often than not, forgiveness has a way of manifesting in terms of our health, in terms of our mental state and so on and so to speak. So it's a huge process that needs to be compartmentalized and needs to be put into context. And with that, I'd like maybe to proceed to our next slide. And here we just want to look at approaches to forgiveness. Again, forgiveness is a broad, vast concept. But for the purposes of our discussions today, I want us to look at approaches to forgiveness. And for today, we will just scope down to 3 approaches to forgiveness. We'll get to look at the therapeutic qualities of forgiveness. And then, of course, we'll get to look at the relational attributes of forgiveness. And last but not least, we'll get to delve into redemptive forgiveness. And to get into therapeutic forgiveness, here we have a person unilaterally telling a party that, I choose to forgive you. And I'm not forgiving you to overlook what you have done to me. What the person here is saying that I am forgiving you as an act of forgiving myself. I am gifting myself. By saying to Upasana that I forgive you, Upasana, what I'm doing is that I am gifting myself. I don't want to be stuck in the past. However much the past often influences the future. What I'm saying to myself is this: I don't want to linger in my painful past. I want to overcome it. And if overcoming my painful past means that I have to forgive Upasana, again, this is just a hypothetical example that I am using. Upasana is a friend of mine, and we are in good books, so on and so to speak. So that's what therapeutic forgiveness is all about. The fulcrum, the center stage of therapeutic forgiveness is the person who has been the person who has been injured. I am trying as much as possible to refrain from using the word victim. So here we have a person who is trying to struggle with their past, and they want to overcome that past. And forgiveness here becomes an avenue for them to move from their past, and so on and so to speak. So that's what therapeutic forgiveness is all about. And I'm not in any form of illusion to mean that therapeutic forgiveness means that you are condoning. No, we are not condoning a wrongful act. What we're saying is that we just want to overlook, right? So we are not condoning. The person here is not condoning a wrongful act. The person here is looking at the greater scheme of things. If forgiving that a person means, good healthcare, a good mental state, for me, so be it. I am willing to forgive him to move on to the next stage of my life. I think, Nanchang, we can proceed to relational forgiveness. And the thing about relational forgiveness, or at the root of our human core, we are not perfect entities. We have our flaws, we have our shortcomings, we have our limitations. So this is what informs the relational approach to forgiveness. And the object and intent of relational forgiveness is to restore a relationship. And there are many relationships in life. We have, professional client relationships. We have more intimate relationships between couples, spouses, between siblings, parent-children relationships, and so on and so to speak. And once in a while, we get to rub our shoulders the wrong way when we are in the presence of our siblings when we are in the presence of our parents, when we are in the presence of our clients, and so on and so to speak. And so here, relational forgiveness is an act that restores a disintegrated relationship. And then the other thing that maybe I'd like to bring to our attention is that a relational forgiveness is a gift of reconciliation for both the victim and the offender. So that's very important. And with this, again, maybe we can jump to the third form of a third approach to forgiveness. And again, I'm trying here to save time as much as possible. And the philosophy here is simple, that every human being subscribes to a higher calling, and this higher power, and this higher power here can be faith, it can be a value system, it can be an ecosystem of ethics that you subscribe to as a human being. And all too often, I have come to appreciate the fact that in all forms of belief systems, at the root of that belief system lies the concept of redemption. We have a deity that seeks to redeem humanity for the various shortcomings that comes with being a human being, and so on and so to speak. So here, a forgiveness is more or less a commandment, or it's a commitment from a higher authority down to us, so on to speak. As in my faith, I practice Christianity, and in my faith, one of the most prominent benedictions is forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So you begin to realize that for you to be forgiven by God or by your deity, you need to forgive other people. You need to be in good books with humanity for an intervention to take place, for divine intervention to take place. So here, forgiveness is more or less divine in nature or divine in aspect. And having looked at the approaches to forgiveness, I think that lays the ground for what I would call now the models or the typologies of forgiveness. And with that, maybe we can proceed to the models of forgiveness. Our first model of forgiveness is reduction in animosity. All too often, when somebody offends you, or when somebody acts in a way that occasions a harm to you, the most natural thing you want to do is fight back. You want to retaliate. Because the very thing about an offense is that it generates animosity. It breeds contempt. It leads to hostility. And when we are in a state of hostility, all too frequently, our emotional stability is compromised. And so the most natural thing you want to do is act in kind. If you punch me, I want to punch you in kind. And so with forgiveness, what forgiveness does in that very moment is that it reduces animosity. Do you know what? I'm not going to punch you back, but I choose to forgive you. And then number two, we'll get to look at reparation as a form of forgiveness. All too often than not, there's always a financial transaction that is involved in acts of harm. And a good example here is if I knock the Mercedes-Benz of Joseph George, if I happen to bang his Mercedes-Benz, all too often, what he's going to tell me is this. He is going to tell me that, I don't feel that harm, but nonetheless, I want you to compensate the cost that it will take to repair my Mercedes-Benz automobile or car, if you like. And then the third, and sorry, it's not appearing here, but our third model of forgiveness is future relationships. I mean, if you are married to somebody, the chances are that you are willing to forgive them because of the future relationship that you have with them. In a client lawyer's relationship, one of the reasons that you are likely to extend forgiveness is because of the greater scheme of things. You want to maintain a relationship that is mutually beneficial to you and to that person. And with that, I'd like us to maybe get down to what I mean by a reduction in animosity. And to illustrate this point, I have a diagram. And in this diagram, I have a spectrum or a continuum, if you like. And my simple definition of a continuum here is a continuous process or a continuous sequence. So here we have got three variables. We have got, I forgive you and I wish you well, and I forgive you, and that's the last, full stop, and I forgive you, but I wish you harm. These are our three variables here. And I want us to pay attention to this, very keen attention. Now, the thing is that, somebody could say such things as this: I forgive you, but I want you to rot in jail. It doesn't negate the fact that an act of forgiveness has been extended. But the thing here is this person wishes the other person harm. So what's happening here is there is a slight reduction in the level of animosity, or there is a reduction in the intensity of animosity. Remember, at some point, I alluded to the fact that when somebody occasions you a harm, the most immediate thing you want to do is retaliate. But here you're saying that, you know what, I'm not going to repay you. I'm going to forgive you, but I wish you harm. So that's one level of forgiveness when somebody says that, I forgive you. And then the other level of forgiveness is, I forgive you. And by that, this person is saying that I don't wish you harm, and neither do I wish you well. So it's a neutral act of forgiveness. It's up to you to take it how you want to take it. And then we have got, I forgive you, but I don't wish you harm. And a good statement here to illustrate this would be, I forgive you. I don't want you to die, but I want you to rot in jail. I hope we are seeing these intentions and intensities of forgiveness here. A lot of emotions are involved here. I forgive you, and I want you to rot in jail. We've got lots of emotions involved here. And I forgive you, but I want you to be free. Again, different energies involved in this statement. And so here, to look at it critically, when the first variable here is wishing them harm, you realize that this person is still trying to get grips of what really happened. And towards my left-hand side, it shows us that this person has truly gone through some form of healing, that I forgive you and I do not wish you harm. All too often we get to hear statements like, I wouldn't want you to go through this, what I have gone through. So insofar as wishing them well, we get to see the process of healing finds completion. So again, and this continuum can be very confusing. The idea here is that we are evolving from my right-hand side, which is wishing them harm, to wishing them well. So I hope we are getting a gist of what a forgiveness is in terms of reduction in animosity. And at this point in time, maybe I'd like to get to the second model of forgiveness. And here we have money involved, or we have an injury that can be expressed in terms of monetary form. So when somebody hits your car, for instance, and you choose to forgive them, one, it could mean that you don't want to retaliate, and that's why we have a reduction in animosity, but you want them to compensate the cost that will be incurred in the cost of repairing your vehicle, so to speak. And again, here, what you're saying is that, I forgive you, but I want you to partially meet the cost of repairing my car. Or you could as well be meaning that I forgive you, but nonetheless, I want you to incur the full cost that it will take to repair my vehicle. And then again, moving towards our left-hand side, to my extreme left-hand side, we've got a waiver. I forgive you, and I don't want you to pay the cost that it will take to repair my car. And the word reparation here simply means taking responsibility to financially restore a person. And this is a concept that is very broad. I know if we happen to have students of international law here, right now, one of the biggest conversations that is going around between the relationships of the Northern Hemisphere, and by the Northern Hemisphere, I'm referring to all colonial powers, and by Southern Hemisphere, I'm referring to countries that went through the agony of colonization. Right now, one of the biggest conversations is centered on reparation. How should colonial powers, how should colonial powers restore their relationships with all countries that underwent the ordeal of colonization, just to restore the relationship that was broken or fractured in one way or the other? Again, reparation is a concept that if we have got lawyers in the room, they will get to confirm that reparation is an all too frequent subject matter in litigation, particularly where we have negligence, where we have tort involved for one reason or the other. And with that at the back of our minds, I'd like us to take a shift and proceed to our third model of forgiveness. And this is future relationship. And here I want us to be very careful. Again, I have a continuum to illustrate what somebody means by when I forgive you. So here, the victim is saying that, the forgiver is not willing to ever interact with the offender again. I forgive you, but I don't want to see your face again. That's a form of forgiveness. And then we proceed to the forgiver is willing to allow the offender to be close enough to re-earn their trust. And here a good example would be where we have a wife and a husband who have been having contention for quite some time. And somehow the magic of forgiveness happens, and the victim here, if the victim is the husband, they get to tell the wife that, I forgive you for what you did to me, and I am willing to see us walk through the healing process of forgiveness. I am extending an olive branch to you, and so on and so to speak. And then we have, again, moving towards the left-hand side, which is the most extreme, we have trust restored. And again, here, I want us to be really careful as lawyers and as mediators, where you detect any form or shade of what they call the Stockholm Syndrome. And the Stockholm Syndrome, in simple terms, is a situation that arises where somebody has been subjected to intent to protracted abuse. They tend to develop a relationship towards the abuser. And at times, this might not be so good. Otherwise, the thing is that always it's not good. Where you have Stockholm syndrome involved, you want to be very careful, because all too often the victim will always find attraction to the abuser. And this is a psychological problem that needs to be solved. So when we are administering a forgiveness, a process of forgiveness, we need to be aware of this fact in mind, that, you know, trust can be restored, but we need to have a critical eye towards that. And with this in mind now, having laid the groundwork, I'd like us to have a look at encouraging a forgiveness. If you're a lawyer, and this is going to be very important for us, there are considerations that you want to have at the back of your mind. Yes, there are considerations that you want to have at the back of your mind. Time is of the essence, and I have a diagram here to illustrate that. So we have a y-axis, and then we have. I think you can move to the next slide, Mr. Chang, and thank you for doing that. So we've got a y-axis, and then we've got an x-axis, and on the x-axis we have when the lawyer should encourage for forgiveness, and on the y-axis the risk to the lawyer, because there's a risk that is involved in this. As a matter of fact, any worthwhile activity in life demands a corresponding risk. So as a lawyer, you risk jeopardizing your relationship with your client if you do not handle this very well. And one of the considerations you want to have at the back of your mind is timing. Timing is very important. And I cannot overemphasize on that. So we've got a diagram here, and best practice demands that, you know, you shouldn't start it at this, you know, at the start of things. You know, I have early, I have middle, and end. And best practice informs that, you know, you shouldn't start these at the initial stages of your relationship with the client. Best practice demands that, you know, you should do it at the middle or towards the later stages of your relationship with that client. And a good example here is once you have started a litigation would be probably here early, you know, at the early stages of litigation, it is not recommended for you to start the conversation on forgiveness. Again, here there are things that you would want to put into consideration. The level of relationship between you and your client, that plays a significant role. You know, if you seem to be having some kind of a rapport, then well and good. You can start the conversation at the initial stages of litigation, but best practice demands that the conversation on forgiveness, you know, once you have gone through the litigation, there's a judgment that has been administered by the court, you can start that conversation at that point in time. And why is it important? Maybe before I get to, maybe before we move to the next slides, I think it's important that we get to understand the fact that litigation at times doesn't get the job done for our clients. We have clients who say that, you know, despite the fact that they have procured a judgment in their favor, they will tell you that I don't feel satisfied. And this is why we want to encourage forgiveness, because forgiveness has a way of provoking healing to take place. So this is why it's important for us to look into forgiveness. And best practice always recommends that, you know, we should begin the conversation on forgiveness towards the later stages of litigation and so on and so to speak. So these are some of the things that you want to have at the back of your mind. Maybe we can move on to encouraging forgiveness in mediation. Maybe we can move to the next slide. And at the very gist of mediation lies the concept that mediators are facilitators of communication. There is a school of thought that mediation is strategic communication. And as mediators, we hold a duty of helping the parties better articulate their feelings and so on and so to speak. So in that sense, we get to encourage forgiveness. When a party is talking to you, you can begin to pick a few things. And as you're picking a few things, you can begin to coach them. You can coach them to facilitate a forgiveness to take place. And as I'm just about to wrap up, one of the interesting concepts in mediation is a concept of interest identification and exploration. At times, parties will walk into the mediation room and they have no idea what their interest is all about. And as mediators, we have a duty on our shoulders to help the parties generate different interests and help them explore these interests. So while we are doing that, we can encourage the parties to facilitate a forgiveness. And then, of course, in different jurisdictions, I know the Indian law on mediation, I know they don't have a separate standalone legislation, but I'm going to say this. If you look at their legislation mentions and solidifies the place of the mediator's proposal. And a mediator's proposal here refers to a recommendation. It's a recommendation from the mediator to the parties that, this is how, if you guys want to resolve this dispute, you should go about it. And again, there is a laid down procedure on how you administer the mediator's proposal or recommendation, if you like. I don't want to get into the dynamics and the nitty-gritties of that in the best interest of time. And then again, mediators have an opportunity to encourage forgiveness by using the power of reframing. And reframing here simply means reconceptualizing a problem in different forms, shapes, and sizes. And with this, I'd like to round up and invite Nanchang and my colleagues to take over. Thank you so much for the opportunity to lay the ground. I was just setting the stage for my colleagues to take over. And of course, we'll get to have you ask questions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor. This is really interesting. Now, without wasting much time, Mr. Victor has laid the foundation for us. We have our panel of discussants here with us, and Upasana is going to talk to us, discuss lawyers encouraging forgiveness, and Mr. Joseph is going to talk about mediators encouraging forgiveness, and Mr. Francis will be talking to us about parties encouraging or advising parties to forgive, as well as the processes involved in forgiveness. Now, quickly, Upasana Singh is a conflict resolution professional. She's an IMI certified mediator from London School of Mediation, United Kingdom, and she's a High Court of Delhi, yes, and the High Court of Delhi. She's a practicing advocate. She is a advocate of the Supreme Court of India and a learning enhancement specialist. So you are in good hands today. And she advises businesses, individuals, and educational institutions on more methods of conflict resolution. She is the founder and CEO of ACOT International, which is based in India, that trains mediators all over the world on mediation advocacy, skills of mediation, and all that pertains to ADR. And she holds the position of reviewer in Indian Law Institute for review and executive editor of the DME Journal of Law. She is also a fellow with Global Policy Insights, a centralist policy institute based in India and the United States of America. She is a member of Insights Collaboration International Canada. And I'm happy to announce that ACOT International is one of the strategic partners of Settlement House ADR Training Institute, and we are happy to have you around. Yeah, well, the two other discussants are no other than Mr. Francis Ojok and Mr. Francis Ojok, for the sake of our participants. He is a trained lawyer with extensive experience in international law and arbitration, international arbitration and dispute resolution generally. That's negotiation and mediation. He is a certified mediator and an International Mediation Institute qualified international mediator. He mediates with Google Mediation, Settlement House ADR Training Institute, and is a dispute consultant with Dynamic Team Solution, United States of America. Francis holds a Master's of Laws degree from the Charles Institute for Dispute Resolution, Caruso School of Law, Pepperdine University, and he has a Master's of Art in Conflict Resolution and Coexistence from the Brandeis University Heller School for Social Policy and Management. He has a postgraduate diploma in legal practice from Law Development Center and a Bachelor of Laws LLB degree from Kampala International University, Uganda. He's a faculty member of SHATI, Settlement House ADR Training Institute, and he is also on our panels of neutrals. Last but not the least is Joseph George. He has a lot of profile. I will just just highlight the ones that we may need to know. He is an intelligent and astute businessman with innovative and motivational mindset. He's passionate for helping people show. He's passionate for helping people show in his body of work. He is an independent, full-time Supreme Court appointed mediator and arbitrator. And he's an arbitrator. His role as an arbitrator, his role is to ensure parties get a fair and effective management proceedings. And just as I said, he has a lot, but to know that you are actually on the same hand. Mr. George actually practiced in Florida, in the United States of America, and he is on the Supreme Court, Florida Supreme Court certified county mediator and arbitrator. He is a certified investigator. That's for equal employment opportunity. He is a certified worker compensation professional. He's a certified immigration form specialist. He's a licensed notary public and e-notary. He's a certified loan signing agent. He is a certified paralegal and legal assistant. He is a certified cannabis mediator. He is also a certified ADA coordinator and subject matter expert. He is also a certified human resource professional. He is a certified recruiting professional and a construction mediator and arbitrator. I think this will be of interest to us because we have more of construction arbitrators than construction mediators. So this is actually interesting. Please, I want you all to join me welcome the panel of discussants as I welcome Upasana to the stage to make our contribution in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanchang, for that brilliant introduction. And thank you, Victor. As always, it is delightful to listen to you, understand something new. learn something new from you. Thank you everybody for joining us. And let's thank you, Francis and Joseph, for being my fellow discussants here. It's my pleasure to share the panel with you. So let's start. As Nanchang has already mentioned, I am in Delhi, New Delhi right now, India. So it's 7 p.m. So I'm so glad that we are joining from different parts of the world. It makes a diverse gathering, makes the learning more elaborative and comprehensive. So I think let me start by sharing my screen. Please do let me know whether the screen is shared or not. Is it shared?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Right. Okay, perfect. Let me just, Let me just do it on a slideshow mode. Okay. Can we see the slideshow mode now? All right, brilliant. Super. Now, as we already know, we are talking about forgiveness here. So my part today is, as I was designated, I have to talk about why lawyers should embrace forgiveness in their practice. How important is forgiveness? So when we put forgiveness and lawyers in the same sentence, there is some sort of a some sort of discomfort that we feel that, okay, can lawyers be forgiving? So that is what we are going to discuss today. Today, is forgiveness even helpful for lawyers in their career, in their personal well-being, and also in making money? So we spend a lot during our law schools to take that degree. So is it actually helpful for us after we become lawyers? So let's proceed with it. As Nanchang has already introduced me, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but you can visit me. I'm very active on LinkedIn if you want to get connected. My email ID is here. You can take it from Nanchang. So I'm quite responsive on emails. And I really like to collaborate with different people from all around the world about different ideas. So you can reach me out on LinkedIn, on email, wherever you want to be. So thank you for that. My organization is Accords International, as Nanchang has already said. I'm so glad that we are collaborating. SHATI and Accords International is collaborating. And I think it's delightful because now we have collaborations in Sri Lanka, in South Africa, in London, in US, and in many different parts of the world. And Nigeria, for that matter, Kenya. So we have collaborations in different parts of the world, and it really feels, I really feel happy about it, because that way we are able to give a very meaningful experience to our participants. So you can visit our website. In fact, interestingly, we are organizing a training, a mediation training in the month of June. So Nanchang, if you will be, if that is possible from your end, we will send you the material. You can share the material with the participants. So the last date of registration is May 31st. And that training is sort of introductory to the field of mediation. We are trying to do it at a very low cost. And for the people of Nigeria, in fact, I am collaborating with a friend of mine, Wala. She's a mediator in Lagos. And we are collaborating with her, and anybody coming from Nigeria gets a straight 50% scholarship. So we can discuss about that, and I can send the material to Nanchang, and we can take the conversation ahead even on that. Coming back to the topic of the day, forgiveness, and how is it important for lawyers? The power of forgiveness, what I'm going to talk about in this presentation today. It's like a brief introduction. We have already talked about different models of forgiveness with Victor. It was very nicely and elaboratively explained by Victor, but I'm just going to take you through the brief introduction from my perspective. And then we will talk about the benefits of forgiveness for lawyers, how forgiveness can be applied. So it's like quite interesting, because sometimes it's like we have to apply forgiveness, but then how? How should we do it? So it's like rather than simply functioning as gladiators, as you could see in the left picture, there's a gladiator. That is how we are taught in our law schools in an adversarial manner. In moot court competitions, we have to be super adversarial like gladiators. So from being a gladiator lawyer, you have to be a counselor at law, a conflict resolution specialist. I think the journey in which Nangchung is right now, as rightly highlighted by Victor in the beginning of his presentation. So he's taking a journey from being an advocate to a mediator. And I think I'm doing the same journey, and it's a beautiful journey. So what is forgiveness? So I really like this conversation, this interview. This was a 2-question interview done with Mahatma Gandhi post execution of Bhagat Singh. He was a revolutionary freedom fighter in India. So the interviewer asked Mr. Gandhi that, do you think it is impolitical to forgive a government which has been guilty of 1,000 murders? Gandhi replies, I do not know a single instance where forgiveness has been found so wanting as to be impolitical. Then again, the interviewer asked a follow-up question. But no country has ever shown such forgiveness as India is showing to Britain. Gandhi replies, that does not affect my reply. What is true of individuals is true of nations. One cannot forgive too much. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. So forgiveness is definitely not a sign of weakness. What forgiveness is not victim. And I agree with Victor that victim, sometimes the usage of the word victim sometimes make you separate victim and offender in your mind. So maybe we can do the person harmed. We can say the person harmed. So forgiveness is not the person harmed condoning the act. Forgiveness is not the person harmed forgetting about what happened. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. Forgiveness is actually a decision to accept what cannot be changed. I cannot change my past. I have to look forward. I think that is what mediation is about, looking forward. Then forgiveness is a decision to create a new story about what occurred. So if I am offended by somebody, there is a discrimination, gender discrimination happened against me at workplace. My stance can be that I'm deeply offended and that person should leave the organization. He should be fired. That is one version of my story. Another version of my story can be, I want to know why was it done against me, and I want to look forward. That is another version of my story. So it's my decision to create a new story about what occurred. And then forgiveness is a means of releasing the past, empowering oneself and moving forward. It's very difficult to forget about the past. Sometimes when we are deeply hurt and we are again and again talking about it and reliving those experiences, which happens in courts, the lawyers here can relate with what I'm saying, because as a mediator, when I listen to the lawyers and the parties who are not trained in mediation, they will sort of like a tape recorder, they will keep on repeating what happened to them in the past. So it's like, if I'm forgetting about it, I am empowering myself. I'm making a decision. I'm taking a decision to move forward. So that is forgiveness. I'm not celebrating forgiveness. I'm just explaining the meaning of forgiveness. Then we can talk about a little bit of benefits of forgiveness here. So let me start with the personal benefit for lawyers. It's very important. So when I started my career as a lawyer, when I started interning in my law school, I increasingly started...
Sorry, Upasana.
Yeah.
Please, I don't know. Can you put your slide on slideshow? I think some parts of the message are not showing.
Is it not visible? I cross-checked. Is it not visible?
No, it is, but a part of it is cut.
Okay. Now is it visible?
Okay,
How much can you see? How about others?
It's okay now.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. And now is it blocked?
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, brilliant. Nice.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nanchang, for that. I hope everybody can see my, just a quick thumbs up. Maybe I can, if I can get the quick thumbs up. Yeah. All right. Brilliant. Super. So, I was talking about when I started as a lawyer. So when I started interning with a senior advocate, I started to increasingly worry about my health, my physical health and my mental health, because you know what, the atmosphere in a typical lawyer's firm in India, I can tell you about the environment in India, is a little bit extra competitive in comparison to what it should be. As a junior associate, you're always in this pressure to show your senior that you are worth the job. So we are the most populated country in the world now. So, and every employer has a replacement ready. So there is this competition in your mind that you have to be worthwhile for your employer to be there in his or her office. And in your mind, because of your training, you feel that if you show your traits of being competitive, if you show your traits of being non-forgiving, of very rigid and very strong, and you can work like 20 hours a day, you can produce drafts in like 24 hours or less than 24 hours. So it's like, if you can meet deadlines, if you can make the client feel that, yes, it is worthwhile talking to you for 1 hour, and the client can shed as much money as you want him or her to shed. All those competitive ideas in your mind you are trained with those in your law school. And there's not a mistake, because currently the curriculum is like that. So suddenly I started sort of feeling that, yes, this is not something that is very helpful. So there's this study done by International Bar Association on the mental well-being in the legal profession. It's a global study. And the report prepared by IBA, the International Bar Association, the task force had the responsibility of talking to legal professionals all over the world and asking them relevant questions about their mental well-being. So the study, there are many findings of the study. The study says that over 1/3 of legal professionals surveyed feel that work negatively affects their mental well-being. The key issues contributing to difficulties with mental well-being include the stressful nature of the work. And correct me if I'm wrong, because the nature of work in India is definitely stressful for a lawyer. The stressful nature of the work, the intensive work time. I remember when I was a lawyer, I still do late hours, but I used to work till 12 a.m. in the morning, in the night, because I have to prepare the draft which goes tomorrow. And I'm still practicing as a lawyer, but differently. I have not left my litigation practice, but I'm practicing differently now. So stressful nature of work, intensive work time, poor work-life balance, and high levels of pressure. The pressure is too much. You just cannot be seen having good time with the opposition lawyers if the matter is of high stake. Even that is sometimes goes against you in a firm. So personal satisfaction of lawyers, when you accept forgiveness in your way of life, in your profession, in your legal practice, there's a personal satisfaction that you get. How? So by recognizing the larger issues. So just like Victor talked about, recognizing the interest in the matter. So you are not only worried about the position, you are taking a bird eye view, and you are recognizing the larger issues involved. If it is a matrimonial matter, you are not only worried about getting your client, who is a wife, maybe the biggest chunk of alimony. You are also taking the bird eye view, and you are taking care of the child's interest if the child is involved. You are taking care of so these are the two people who will never be strangers to each other after marriage. If the child is involved, they will have one association forever. That is of being parents to that child. So in that bird eye view, you are recognizing the larger issues implicated. the lawyers have the opportunity to restore dignity and leadership to the legal profession and to fulfill the highest ethical duty of the lawyer. What is our duty? What is our highest ethical duty as lawyers? We have to serve the best interest of the client. So interestingly, you know, my professor told me, I was gifted my robe. In India, whenever we have to appear in the Supreme Court or the High Court, we wear a black robe. And that robe, I don't know if you wear in your jurisdictions, you can send yes if you do in your jurisdictions. So that black robe has a small pocket on its backside. If you look at it, if you do in your jurisdiction, there is a small pocket. And my professor told me, I asked her, my professor told me that in the past, in ancient times, when legal profession was not criticized for being mean, that pocket was for the lawyer to take the fees for her services. So after the service is over, the lawyer would just turn the back and the client would put the money in the pocket. That was how noble the profession was. And now all of us know what is the how we look at the legal profession. And I'm very happy to be a lawyer, but then there's a popular perception. Then I have a comment in the chat box. Yeah. All right, Victor. Super. Just go back home and look at that pocket. Senior advocates in India have bigger pockets and junior advocates have smaller pockets. So maybe it's an interesting exercise after the class. Then there are other benefits also. This was the personal benefit. There are other benefits also. So for example, I hope my slides are visible, Nanchan.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. All right.
It's visible.
So,
yeah.
Just like Victor said that it's not like in the beginning itself, you start talking about forgiveness to your client. No, you cannot manipulate your client to get into a mediation or forgive the opposite party. No, but when you as lawyer are open to forgiveness, are open to promote mediation or any kind of collaborative dispute resolution mechanism, you are promoting open communication, you are promoting empathy, and you are promoting understanding. What is the actual issue here? Is it what the client is saying, or we have to dig deeper? So open communication is very important to understand the real issues. Then if you can foster a forgiveness also, it's like sometimes as lawyers also, with clients, our relationship is very interesting. Sometimes you are very kind to your client. Sometimes the clients are also there, they're ringing you at odd hours. If you don't send them one notice, if you don't send them one court order, they're after your life, you're taking money from us and you're not doing your duty. Because there's this basic understanding that lawyers, they don't care about the client, they care about the fees. So it's very important to make your client feel that you are there to help them. I know it is easier said than done, but it can be incorporated in your practice little by little. So client cooperation, compliance, and overall satisfaction with the legal representation is very important. And interestingly, that can reduce the appeals filed against. Because you know what, the client is able to communicate openly. The client is able to make the lawyer understand what are her issues. That pays overall satisfaction with the legal representation improves. You know, my practice has improved. Actually, my clients they're coming back because, you know, conflict is inevitable. Conflict is there to stay in the society. So you will not run out of matters if you start incorporating forgiveness. Then it can also promote adherence to the principles of integrity, fairness, and impartiality. So as lawyers, you have to uphold the higher ethical conduct in legal practice also. There should be professionalism. You have to treat all your clients, all your staff, all your colleagues with equality. So again, in the legal fraternity, you know, forgiveness is not only saying, I am sorry. Forgiveness is also perspective taking. Sometimes if I am not happy with my paralegal's work, if, for example, the clerk who files the matters in the court registry, if he's not doing best of his job, my reaction can be shouting at that person. But if I know I can put myself in his position and do that perspective taking, I can understand that yes, there can be traffic. So that promotes your even in-house, your office culture also. And your culture is visible to your clients. I'm again saying this, any culture, any office which has happy employees, it is visible to the clients. So promoting forgiveness even towards your own fraternity, towards your staff, towards your employees, towards your colleagues is also important for a lawyer. Then, so there are many benefits. There are also benefits, economic benefits. For example, let me just take you one of the slides which I wanted to talk to you about. So these are one of many cases which are evidence of how collaboration can even give you economic monetary benefits. So if you can see my slide clearly, so there's this Toro Corporation. So in a field of general civil suits, Toro Corporation, it's based in US. It's a manufacturer of lawn care products. And there is on an annual basis, they have around 125 personal injury claims. So it's a study. You can find this in one of the articles that I will mention in my references. I will give you my slide. So there, it's a real case. So they have around 125 personal injury claims arising against them out of the use of its people getting sort of undergoing personal injury because of the use of their products. So in 1991, Toro Corporation took a huge step, and it switched to a conciliatory approach from an aggressive litigate everything approach to a conciliatory approach. Now they started mediating cases when possible and making fair compensation offers. Then following this switch, the total cost per claim fell from around 115,000 USD to barely 30,000 USD. By 1999, Toro had saved around $75 million. So this case study illustrates that even monetarily, the clients will get benefited. And imagine if you are, as a lawyer, if you're doing such a huge benefit to your client will definitely. So you know what, in our field, more than your visiting cards, your client word of mouth is the biggest marketing thing for a lawyer in our field. So if your clients are praiseworthy of you, if your clients are communicating to their fellows that this lawyer actually settles the matter and does it beautifully, collaboratively, there is no fight, there's no ugly negotiation table rounds happening, and I get what I want. So this also benefits you monetarily as a lawyer. Then coming to, so this is one of the incident that I wanted to talk about, and we will understand what did the litigator do incorrectly here, even if the litigator is a well-meaning litigator. All right. So this is actually, I've kept it anonymous. This is a matter which was personally undertaken by my team. And so it's like a man seeking compensation for serious medical injuries, but wanted to forgive the person responsible. His lawyer told him, don't forgive, it will hurt your case. This is normal. And the lawyer is not ill-intentioned. The lawyer is actually well-meaning litigator here. Why is the lawyer doing this? The lawyer is also trained. Your mind is, we have such muscle memory. Sometimes don't you realize, sometimes you take turns even without realizing when you drive back home from your office. So it's like we know, that as lawyers, we are trained that no, forgiveness is bad. Collaboration is bad. if somebody's pocket is deep, dig deeper. So that's why the litigator said that don't forgive, it will hurt your case. What did the litigator do incorrectly here? What did the litigator do? You can put your comments in the chat box. We can take that up. In fact, I can see 2 comments here. All right. I think Victor has taken it there, so I'm not going to read it. Thank you, Victor. So while trying to achieve a legal victory, what did the litigator do here? While trying to achieve the legal victory and protect the litigants' economic rights, the lawyer ignored his client's other interests. What are the other interests in this personal injury matter? So the victim, the person harmed, wanted to be at peace with what happened to him. It's okay, it happens. Sometimes people, they want to make peace. Sometimes people are forward looking. They just don't, not everybody keeps a grudge. Then what did the lawyer ignore? The lawyer ignored having compassion towards the person responsible for his injuries. In the lawyer's mind, the harm doer is the villain. And the harm doer should pay till his or her last full capacity. So there is no absence of compassion and empathy there. Nothing wrong. It's actually how we are trained. But this is what happened there in that split second when the lawyer gave that advice. Then the focus is on blame and denial. On blame and denial. Denial that no, there cannot be a honest mistake. And blame. There is a mistake, I will put a blame on him or her. So focus on blame and denial polarizes the parties even more. Right now, they are A versus B. They will always remain A versus B. That's why in my mediations, people don't sit like this. I try and make my parties sit like in a semicircle. There's no verses. Then the lawyer also overlooked the agony of the victim. The victim can simply be in pain. It's not necessary that the pain is targeted at somebody. All right, that person has done that harm. But I am also suffering from inside. I want the compensation quickly. Maybe there is some urgent payment that I have to make. My interest is something else here. My interest is not only in getting the harm doer punished. There is something more that I want. So the lawyer's aversion to forgiveness was likely based on the unspoken dictates of adversarial legal culture. That is, exaggerate their differences, their injuries, and their outrage. So there's a friend of mine, she's a matrimonial dispute lawyer. And so there are clients who come to her, female clients, and she popularly, it's not illegal to do it, but she aggravates the injury when it is put in the petition. So it's like if the man has pushed the wife, the petition would like the husband forcefully pushed the wife on the kitchen cabinet, and the wife fell down, and the head got bruised and it started bleeding. Actually, what happened was the head was bumped into the kitchen cabinet, and there's just like it's swollen there. So you exaggerate there. Then the legal, so it's like, you know what, there's a greatest fiction of all, that money can restore wholeness. Money can buy anything. Money is the most important. Money is a second god on this planet. So I'm not being preachy here, but the legal profession is sort of engulfed by this legal fiction that money can restore wholeness. Sometimes there's other things also. Then, so I can see there are a few comments in the chat box. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Wala, for that comment. I agree with you. So the parties are happy when it is cost effective and quick. Then going to the next, let me just, yes. Now, how can you apply forgiveness in your practice? So let me just see. My slides are visible, I hope, right? Yeah, perfect. So you should at least put forgiveness on the menu of topics to be discussed with the clients. Forgiveness is not something that sometimes, sometimes a few lawyers are so aggressive that even clients are afraid of mentioning forgiveness, mentioning collaboration, mentioning mediation to them. Like, a client is sometimes want to settle, but the lawyer is so involved. The lawyer does not want to settle. So just put forgiveness on the table and let the client know that, no, it's like their decision. You are just there to advise whenever it is needed. And if they're going in the wrong direction, you will tell them. But nothing is forbidden here. Just by introducing the idea, you're giving the permission to the clients to talk about forgiveness, right? So sometimes in mediations, it happens. As mediators, we need to go to the private session without the lawyers, or sometimes a joint session without the lawyers. Obviously, lawyers agree to this, but sometimes the clients want entirely different thing and the lawyers want just to fight. So it actually happened with me that it was a co-mediation, and it was a workplace dispute, and the employer and employee, they settled their matter, and the employee's lawyer thought that she got less, and the employer's lawyer thought that he is giving more. But when they saw the parties hugging each other because they were old friends who are in a workplace working together, they knew that money was not an issue there. So it's important for lawyers to understand what is the issue there. Then if a client is very stressed and angry, the lawyer can, lawyers, they think that talking about healing, talking about perspective, accepting, you don't need to be a psychologist for that. Lawyers are very apprehensive of talking about emotions suddenly. Am I audible? Yeah, okay. So it's like you can talk about healing anger. You can talk about letting go of grudges. You can talk about keeping things in perspective and accepting past events that can be changed. So these are valuable steps for client, and you're not mentioning the word forgiveness there. So it's like if it's a contractual issue between maybe it's a family business, and there is an issue of sort of two board members on a decision to be made on the employment of, maybe on the appointment of the managing director. There, on the face of it, it looks like the issue is about the appointment and the decision of the board. If you dig deeper, the issue can be about big brother bullying the younger brother or the younger sibling. The younger sibling always having this feeling that parents always support the elder sibling. So you can talk about opening communication. You can talk about letting go of grudges. It's not an anti-lawyer thing to do. Then lawyers can practice forgiveness in relationship with their clients. How can you do that? See, active listening is very important. As lawyers, we are trained to speak more, listen less. But see, God has given us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. We ought to listen more. So an active listening should be actually made the skill of 21st century, because you know what, unless we listen more, we don't understand what is the problem the other person is facing. And upon actively listening only, we understand how to respond. We have to stop that mental chatter. Sometimes lawyers, the moment they listen, okay, it's a consumer dispute, they are planning their petition in their mind. Maybe it's not a consumer dispute. Listen to the client. So doing active listening is very important. Showing empathy towards clients is very important. You get clients, for example, in India, I get clients even from the remotest part of state of UP, where they don't understand, they cannot even speak proper Hindi, which I understand. So I have to be very empathetic towards that. Otherwise, the clients will feel bullied even from the lawyer. So to understand the interest of the client, you have to be empathetic, and it's not time consuming. Then understanding their perspectives is also very important. So it's like allow each person to say what they need most. You can ask a follow-up question. So why do you need it? Why do you want the tenant to, why do you want to evict the tenant? Why is a very important word. All right, then acknowledging their emotions and concerns without judgment. Then forgiveness can also be applied in building and maintaining professional relationships with legal community. So this I have already talked about. You have to treat your fraternity with respect. You have to treat your juniors with respect, promoting collaboration than competitiveness. Then if you go to the, this I've already discussed with you, then I just listed few cases suitable for forgiveness, and it's not like it's an exclusive list or the cases not mentioned here are not suitable for forgiveness. What I believe is that every case is suitable for forgiveness. So what are the cases that I have listed? So when a significant personal relationship is at stake, so it includes, it can involve spouses, siblings, parents, children, neighbors. Oh my God, neighbors. Neighborhood brawls are the starting points of almost 40% of matters faced by Delhi courts. So just on a parking spot, two neighbors can extend that matter to the level of hitting each other with stones. So actually, I don't understand. But in Delhi, for example, we have such a crunch of space that parking spots are, I think, almost as important as maybe your house. So then your colleagues, your co-workers, your business partners, so which is not a small category of litigated disputes. It's like when I say personal relationship is at stake, I am covering a lot of terrain there, a lot of terrain. Then any dispute in which intense emotions are triggered. Any dispute which involves a lot of emotions is very suitable for forgiveness, because you know what? Sometimes the conflict is not because of what they are, because of some material thing that they are not getting. It can be because of their involvement of ego, humiliation, respect, emotions, and we are emotional beings. Human beings are emotional.
Okay,
Emotions.
so Upasana, please can you round up? We are far out of time.
Yeah, this is my last slide. Yeah, this is my last slide, 9. So these are the few disputes: family, service, defamation, discrimination. And I hope that I was able to communicate. So I was thank you for letting me speak. I'm stopping my screen share now. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so thank you very much for the presentation. I saw different aspects and of forgiveness and its application. This is very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Upasana. We'll call on Joseph, Judge, to make his presentation while possibly commenting on Francis' aspects a little. He had an emergency and he had to leave. So, Joseph, you're welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's morning here where I'm at here in Florida. So good morning and good afternoon. I want to start off by saying thank you to my fellow colleagues. Thank you to the Settlement House for bringing this together. This is part 2. I'm sure we probably might have a part 3 and a part 4, as this is a great discussion to talk about.
Yeah.
What Mr. Nanchang don't know and my fellow colleagues don't know also is that I'm also a hostage negotiator. So I'm a trainer certified hostage negotiator here in the United States.
Wow.
Yes. So sometimes in mediation, I feel myself to be hostage, and sometimes the participants in mediation is hostage to their disputes that they're in. And I understand how powerful forgiveness can be, as the same as an apology. It's the same, has the same power. I believe apology and forgiveness go hand in hand. They're brothers and sisters. That's what I like to call them. I've seen where I'll share a hostage negotiation story with you. I'm more of a storyteller. I don't have the fancy slides like my colleague. So I'll share life experiences with you, and I think everybody will get it from there. There was a particular case that a couple colleagues was working on, where the husband was excessive gambler, and he gambled the wife and family savings away. So he wanted to pretty much take his own life in that scenario. We tried to talk him down every which way till we finally got a hold of his wife. And his wife came down and she talked to him and explained to him, everything's going to be all right. You don't need to take your life for that. These is just material things that can be replaced. She's tried every which way, and we asked her, well, why don't you try talking to him in a different way and more sympathetically to get through to him? Because right now, everything that you're saying, that's the reason why he's here. She turns to him and she says, listen, I am so sorry that you did that, but I forgive you. And the minute she said that she forgave him, you could see a sign of relief on his face. And now his ears is open. Now he's listening. And that's the part that we want to get to. We wanted to get to the part where he's listening, because once he's listening, we could actually interject information into his brain and get that synapses going. So once she said that, and she started to say, listen, I forgive you for everything. We can get everything back. We're going to figure this out. And with her saying we is letting him know that we is a team. Both of them is a team. They're both going to do this together. So he's not feeling like he's alone. So with her saying that she forgave him, that was a great way for her to actually get him to not commit suicide and come out to us and, talk with us and everything else. And, she was there with him every step of the way. He still had to go to jail, of course, spending government time, but at least he lived for another day to spend time with his wife and his kids. So that forgiveness is very, very powerful to interject. Now, in mediation has a way of how the parties can settle their disputes. But other factors that trained mediators know about the power of an apology and how forgiveness can mend the relationship with the parties. So forgiveness means being able to let go of the hurt and the pain from a situation that caused so much grief. So that grief part is where we want to get to, and we want to help that person release. Because once they release, that is like a weight being lifted off of their chest once they get that forgiveness out of the way. Because that's forgiveness, it's so complex. Many people find it hard. It's one of the hardest things to do is forgive. You could give somebody an apology and say it in so many ways, and that person would accept the apology. But here's the other part. They accept the apology, but they didn't forgive me for what I did. And that's just like, how can I regain that trust again after what I did? So building trust, it's simple. You could build trust over time, but would that person still forgive me for what I did? That's the hard part. So when it comes to mediation, apologies remain a critical key that leads to forgiveness. And I have seen firsthand how apology timelessly made in mediation has great potential to release resentments, bitterness, anger, hatred towards the person, and promote trust. And in a dialogue is an essential way, and it can lead to forgiveness. But you got to create that dialogue first. And that's like Ms. Upasana saying, you got to listen. One mouth, two ears, you got to listen. So if you're not listening and both people is arguing, especially in mediation, if both parties is talking in mediation, nobody's listening. But as a mediator, we have to control the room. And we have to be able to say, can we separate these parties or can we keep them together? And sometimes it's beneficial to keep them together because as mediators, sometimes we have to read our clients and read the room. Some parties, you cannot keep them in the same room. I've seen where some people want to jump across the table and grab the other person. So you have to know when to separate them and say, okay, these two is not going to work out in this room. I'm not going to resolve this dispute in this room if these two parties is continue going head to head. So I'm going to give you a little story of a construction dispute that the team worked on. And there was a construction company that worked on a lady's home, building her pathway from the front of the property to the back of the property. She had given him a design of how she wanted it to be done before she went on her work trip. But while she was gone and she left her husband to monitor the project, which he did to the best of his knowledge. But you know how men we are. We always think we're better than our wives and we know a little bit more. So we come in with our own little factors of how things are supposed to be. So the contractor did the job while she was gone. He completely finished the job. And when her husband called her and let her know that the job was completed. So she was glad that the project was finished on time, and the husband tell her how the work looks beautiful. So she was happy that the project was completed, and she just couldn't wait to get home to see her new pathway, because he done put the lights and what you call those solar lights, and he done put the little flowers to go down the path like she wanted everything. But as to her surprise that it was done, but not the way she designed it. So you guys could tell me what exactly happened here. So everything was done on time. Everything was beautiful like her husband told her, but it wasn't done to what she designed. And that was because her husband got involved, and her husband made the changes to design without telling his wife. He made changes to the design. So this is the part where I said this is the start of the dispute, is the husband interjected his own vision of how he think it should have been without consulting with his wife. And this happens all too common in construction, where you have too many chiefs involved in a project and everybody wants to run the project but the project manager. So she turns to the contractor and said, hey, I love that you finished this on time, but this is not what I paid for. This is not the design that I want. And they got in a heated battle back and forth, this and that. And then when he turned to her and said, but your husband approved it. He's the one who made the change. She didn't know that part because her husband didn't tell her that part. So now that her husband finally got into it and say, hey, I made the change, but I thought that I could have made the change. She says, no, I gave the contractor specific instructions on how it's supposed to be done. Well, the wife didn't care that the husband made the change. She turned to the contractor and stated, I'm the one that's paying you. I'm the one who called you. I'm the one that showed you exactly how it should be done. There should have been nobody else telling you how to do this. So he actually tell her, well, your husband is part of you. So I thought that if he was saying this because you left him in charge of the project, that whatever change he made was because that's a decision that you and him both discussed. But she tended to keep strong and her feet dug in because, again, like Ms. Hassan said, she wasn't listening. She wanted what she wanted and she wasn't listening. But when she finally opened up and he stopped and he says, ma'am, I apologize. I should have listened to you. I should have done it. I should have asked your husband, did he consult with you before I make any changes? Or I should have got on the phone, contact you or send you an email and say, hey, I just want you to know your husband is making a change to the project, and I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And I did not do that, and I apologize. Now, that's where the power of apology comes into play. He apologized. He opened her up to listening. And guess what she did? She turned to him and says, I understand these things happen. He tell her, well, it'll be hard, a lot of work to rip up the whole, pathway again, because he'll have to concrete it up and dig it down, bust it all up, and haul it all off, and then do everything. But what she did is she actually turned to him and says, since my husband did it, and he is part of me, and he should have consulted me, and he should have never override me. But since it's there, it's not bad looking. It's just not the design that I wanted, but it still looks good. And she accepted it because of his apology. But she offered him another project on the house to fix, which was bigger project, and it was more money. Now, you know the reason why she offered him the project? She offered him the project because she forgave him because of his apology. And that's why I say apology and forgiveness goes hand in hand in mediation. So because he had a sincere apologize, and he explained the reason why it happened. So he went through the full steps of apology. He did not make any excuses. He actually owned it. So that's why she accepted his apology. And then she actually forgave him, because if she did not forgive him, she would have never offered him another project on their house. So that's a great way to say, when you apologize good and you're sincere, you can get forgiveness out of it from the other party, but it has to be done right. You can't, the minute you make an excuse like say, well, your husband did it, and I didn't listen to him, but that wasn't my fault, but I built it anyway. That's where you actually cause a heated debate. Now you've gone from forgiveness to go on to anger, and then anger leads to resentment. So he did not went that way. He did the proper way. He apologized. He explained why he's apologizing. He accepted the responsibility of his mistake, and she accepted it. And that, from that apology, led to forgiveness. So when it comes to forgiveness, it's always good listening to the party, putting yourself into their situation and understanding how they may perceive things to be. And also is a great way, I always tell people, sometimes interpretation. So the words we use and how somebody interprets it to be is two different things that can actually cause situations to uprise into mediation. It's all about what they interpret it to be. So that's why when we explain things, we have to make sure we use the proper words. Sometimes we got our own little slangs that we use, but sometimes those slangs, people don't get it, and they may not ask you what you mean. They may not just get what you're trying to say, and it could take the conversation another way. So that's why I always tell people, always use the 5 steps of apologizing that could lead to forgiveness. And the 5 steps to apologizing on me is, number 1 is just say you're sorry. Number 2 is say what it is that you're apologizing for. Like, I apologize for saying you're a bad person, if that's what you call it. So you just say, I apologize for saying that you're a bad person. Number 3 is show you understand it was bad, and then take ownership and show that you understand why you caused that hurt to that person. So you explain to them, I understand that this hurt you in this type of way. I did not mean it that way. I thought it was funny, but apparently it was funny to me and it wasn't funny to you. So that's where that good apology comes in. And then number 4 is don't make excuses. Like today's age, everybody use age. Well, I'm too old to understand these terminologies, or I'm too young. I'm young. So people use those things, and those excuses, people look at you when you're in a dispute with them and look like, yeah, I know you're young, but guess what? I'm young too. And I'm not doing the same thing you're doing. So that's why we can't make excuses, because people don't want to hear excuses. They want to hear that you're sorry and apologize. And then number 5, and lastly, explain why it won't happen again. So I called you that name out of malice or whatever, but I want to let you know I won't let it happen again. You know, I said I'm sorry. I'm gonna work on me, and I won't let it happen again. I won't talk behind your back again. It was not professional of me to actually do that. So I'll leave you with a quote, 2 quotes actually. One is from Benjamin Franklin, and he has a quote saying, "Never ruin an apology with an excuse." And that's one of the things I live by in mediation. And then the other quote is, "Mistakes are always forgivable if one has the courage to admit them." And that's by Bruce Lee. I love my martial arts. So that's why I says, when it comes to forgiveness and mediation, we as mediators, we have to actually, we could silently do it with the person, you know, and sometimes I always turn to the party that's actually pursuing the dispute and say, hey, I think this person is really sincere over there in they wanted to apologize to you, but they don't know if you would accept their apology. And I kind of test the water that way. And then I go to the other side and I will say, you know, I think if you apologize, I think this might start to work in everybody's favor. And they're like, really? I really don't want to apologize. I don't feel like I did something wrong. And then I'm like, well, are we here to prove we're right or wrong? Or are we here to resolve a dispute? And then when they actually go, you know what, you're right, because I could see some errors where I made some mistakes and I actually should work on that. And then I said, so you think you'll work on your apology? And I said, yeah, if they're ready to hear it. And I'll merge the rooms and I say, Mr. Victor has something to say to you. Mr. Nochan, are you ready to listen to what he has to say? And Mr. Nochan go, yeah, sure. I'll listen to what he has to say. Is he gonna pay me my money? And I said, no, I think he has something else to say. I don't know if it's about money, but if you listen. And once that person starts to listen, and Mr. Victor goes, Mr. Nochan, you know what? I am so sorry. You know, I should have paid you the money when I had a time, but I was down on my luck. And now I'm doing better. I'm going to actually pay you this money. What is a good time? Can we do Cash App? Do you have Zelle on your phone? I'll pay you the money right now. And Mr. Danchan could say, you know what? You apologize. And that's really what I was looking for. And, you know, I want our friendship to be better. So I just want to let you know that I forgive you, because these things happen. But, you know, all I was really looking for was a good apology from you. And now I can let you know that, you know, I forgave you for what you did. And now let's move forward and let's be partners and continue getting this money going for this business. So that's why I would say I always use apology and forgiveness as your right hand and your left hand, because they go hand in hand with each other. And with that being said, that's my closing on that. You're muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph, for that exciting and well-explained discussion on forgiveness. I'm really glad to be part of this meeting. So let me quickly ask if we have questions. And our apologies. Let's, you permit us use a few minutes to take questions. I think this is a very important discussion that one or two persons may want to make an input and or ask questions so that we can address them before we leave. I really appreciate you all for staying with us from the beginning to this time. Thank you. Please, if you have a question, you can raise your virtual hand and or indicate, and then we're given the opportunity to ask, or you can drop it on the chat box and then we'll read it out. Thank you. So the floor is all okay. Mr. Victor. Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's something very important that Mr. Joseph mentioned when he stated that, you know, it's important that we focus and emphasize on interpretation. And for me, what I usually do is before the parties can, before we have an MOU signed between the parties in mediation, I think it's important that we get to have a recital of the agreements. And I think this is where interpretation becomes important, because one of the parties could be saying one thing and you, the mediator, use words that translate it into something different altogether. So I think it's important that as we mediate our issues, it's always important that at the tail end of the process, just before an MOU is signed, that you get the parties recite the agreements. Is this an apology that you are extending? And so on and so to speak. So that is one thing that I feel is very important that we need to make an emphasis on. And then the other thing that I'd like maybe to mention is, as a mediator, when you are facilitating a dispute process, let the parties inform you when they need to make an apology or forgiveness. And why do I get to say this? Because you have no idea how the other party will respond to this. So always make sure that you get to have an independent caucus where a party tells you that I feel like I want to make an apology to the other party. And the wisdom behind this is that when you get into a common caucus, you can facilitate the process, because different people react to apologies differently. And the same thing goes with forgiveness. So this is something important that I want us to have at the back of our mind, that before a forgiveness is extended, an act of forgiveness is extended, make sure that you as the mediator, you have prior knowledge of this, so that when you are in a joint session and the person makes the forgiveness and things, you know, take a different tangent point, with that wisdom, you can bring them into control and so on and so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you have a question, please just raise your virtual hand and we'll ask your question or drop it on the chat box. We have one question here, and the question says, if you apologize and the apology is not accepted, what should you do? You apologize and the apology is not accepted, what should you do? Joseph, we want to say something?
Yeah, if the apology is not accepted or reciprocated, all you can do is say, you know, I'm sincerely stating that I apologize for what I did. But again, it's how you apologize. That and the tone. And a lot of people don't get it. If you just come and say, I apologize, then that doesn't sound sincere. It's all about tone and how you word it. Now, if you come and say, I sincerely apologize for what happened. And again, you got to explain, for me calling you out your name or for me talking behind your back. I was angry at the time and I was being childish, and I sincerely apologize for that. I will not let it happen again. that's where you will have a greater chance of getting the forgiveness or getting that other person to apologize back to you. And then the other part is you just got some mean people in the world that it doesn't matter what you say, they're never gonna accept your apology. Some people they just dug their heels into the ground and they're not, I mean, there's just mean people out there in the world. That's just the other part. But they're only 1% of the world. Anybody who wants to actually resolve a dispute sincerely, more than likely would always accept your apology. But you're always going to have that 1%, and that 1% shouldn't deter you from apologizing in your next situation and in life. So don't let them deter you, because that person is probably just the 1. And you probably can never have that happen again, because I've done over 2,000 and something plus mediation and counting. And some apologies, I've only seen one person say, I don't care about the apology, I just want to go to see the judge. And you know, a lot of people always cry, I want to see the judge, and then they go and see the judge, and then they go, you know, I should have finished this in mediation, because they're thinking sometimes the judges is not gonna sit there and listen to their stories in court like they think they could do in mediation. And I know my fellow colleagues know that when you go to the judge, that whole story about, you know, this guy and that person and this witness and that person, the judge ain't got time for that. Just say, what does that pertain to this case? In mediation, we allow it because we allow you to vent in mediation, so we could get you to give that apology so that other person could get that forgiveness. But the judge is clear cut. They probably got 40, 50 cases that day. They got 5 minutes for each person. Why are you here? How are we going to resolve it and move on? Don't tell me about Tom was running around over here doing this and he knows what's going on. The judge, they're like, I always call the judges, they're like Kevlar vests. All those non-words just drop off the judges. They don't want to hear all that. They're focusing on the law and how they could effectively apply the law to your case. And that's it. So again, the proper steps, if you follow through the proper steps of apology, then it would lead to a good forgiveness and apology at the same time. And again, don't listen to the 1%. The 1%ers, they're a dying breed. They're still there because, like yin and yang, we need to have them in life to keep a balance. But don't let them change your perspective on life in wanting to apologize to somebody else. And I give the floor back.
Thank you very much. This goes to Upasana.
There's one thing which I want to add there to what Joseph has said. Sometimes it has happened with me. Sometimes the person who is apologizing also is not the person from whom I want the apology. Sometimes that's the reason why apology is not accepted, because it happened in one of the matrimonial mediations that husband and wife, they were fighting, and the wife made an apology. The husband made an apology, but the wife was not agreeing. But wife wanted an apology from the husband's sister. So the sister was called on the table, and that is sort of a tool for a mediator also to break that impasse and think innovatively. Yeah. Sorry, Nanchang, I sort of interrupted you. You're muted.
Okay. Upasana, this question goes to you. We want to hear your opinion on that. Is the concept of apology and forgiveness geared towards resolution of the conflict in its entirety, or is it specifically focused on absolving the parties of any form of resentment? Then the second question is, where the conflict relates to debt recovery, for instance, can the owed party still recover the amount owed after accepting the apology and forgiving? Yes, this is really an interesting one.
Yeah.
I hope
so I'll go. Yeah. I think please pardon me if I'm not able to pronounce your name correctly. It's Swiz, right? Swize. Can you unmute and tell me how to pronounce your name?
Okay. Is it
Sorry. Sayways. Thank you for your question, Sayways. So the answer to your second question first, yes. Even after apology, the amount owed can be taken. And generally that is what happens. But coming to your first question, so apology is not a relief in alternative to a compensation or fine or something. So they are not mutually exclusive, that if I am getting an apology from the harm doer, I cannot get my money back. So for example, an offense of check bounce in India, it comes under the non-negotiable offenses. And if my check gets bounced, then it's a punishable offense in India. But also these matters, they go to mediation a lot. So there, if I owe some amount of money to the other person, and because of my mistake, the other person suffered some sort of an injury, monetary and both emotional injury in his business. And so their apology will solve a lot of problems. For example, I have been doing business with this person for the past 3 years. And my check started getting bounced again and again for 3 times. So for 2 times, he was like, okay, fine. She's a good person. She always pays money. She's punctual, fine. But I did not tell him that I am reaching bankruptcy and I'm in a very bad state of affairs monetarily. So I will apologize for not being transparent. I did hurt a friend there. Then I did not inform the other person. There was this rotating contract with the other person. So one done, the next one does not need any documentation, but it's like all on its own. The next assignment becomes active. So I apologize for not stopping that process, for not coming out clean and stopping further obligations from my end. I apologize for sort of ruining the other person's reputation in market. If my consignment delivery is what on which the other person's work is dependent, my delay will also delay his delivery. I will apologize for that. But I have to owe the money which was not there in my account, which I owe to him. Right? There can be a difference. There can be a slight difference in the amount of compensation. Maybe there is for that ultimate loss, he is demanding a lot of money from me. That compensation the brackets can be reduced. But definitely money is very important. I have to give back. I cannot say, sorry, see you later, no money. I have to give the money back. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Victor, you will help us address this particular one. The question is it advisable to have the parties go for a caucus before asking one of the party to embark on an apology, to avoid the apology being rejected, or to avoid worsening the situation? Is a caucus needed first before embarking on apology and forgiveness, to avoid a situation where the apology will be rejected or will end up worsening the situation? Mr. Victor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Before I respond to that question, let me respond to the question where an apology has been made and the other party is not in a position to reciprocate. And I think Joseph sort of responded to that question perfectly. And I just maybe want to make a contribution to that. It could mean that the party is not in a state to forgive that person. They could be saying that I need more time to process this before I can forgive you. So that's one thing that we need to put into consideration. Other scenarios where we may need to put into consideration would be where it's a company. And oftenly, when you are mediating, you don't get to have the CEOs, the critical decision makers in the room. And so what a party could be communicating, I want it to come from the CEO of the company. I want it to, come out from the real owners of the company. So again, there are lots of considerations that we want to wrap our minds around. Now, to your question, is it advisable for you to have a separate caucus before a party can make an apology? Now, I'll just take you to the very basics of a mediation. There's a general established principle that, the mediator controls the process and the disputants, the parties, control the outcome. And so the thing here is you don't want to have a situation where you are caught at surprises, because we all relate to surprises differently. That's why it's always important for you to make sure that you are in tune with what a party is about to do, because you have no idea how the other party will react to it. So it's not just advisable, but it is best practice that you get to have a separate caucus with a party and get into their head and know what kind of a move they are about to make. Because at times they can make a move that ends up killing a momentum, that ends up stopping, all that has been achieved within the course of the day. So it's always important that we have that at the back of our minds. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for this exciting session. Do we have further questions? We have to extend our time to allow participants ask questions. I can see our colleague, Uwala. I don't know how to call the name. Esther Murphy, please, do you have something to add up to this? And welcome, Mr. Shehum. I don't know how to call your name. I hope I'm correct. You're welcome. I can see Awa Usman, Adeinka Akanji. You're all welcome. Andrew is here. Thank you very much. Please, Uwaila.
Yes.
You have the floor, please.
Thank you so much for this well put together session. I've learned a lot from it, especially from Upasana and Joseph, in short, from everybody. I will not forget today so easily, because I'm so glad I participated. I mean, I kept leaving and joining because I had to do one thing or the other. But I said I must be here. I hope I'll be able to, you invite me for the next session, and by God's grace, I'll be there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Upasana. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Wala. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
I wanted you to meet Nanchang. So both my collaborators from Nigeria are here, and lovely for this small virtual gathering. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So we have Honorable Dorcas Levy. She has been with us right from the beginning. I don't know if she's still here with us. Please, she's a member of the governing body of Settlement House. Maybe she wants to say one or two things. Really appreciate to hear from her. Our Honorable Chair, Barrister Chris Ope, you are also welcome. We're happy to have you here. Very happy. So, Honorable Dorcas, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. We're happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here too. Thank you for this program. It's an eye-opener. I must say it's an eye-opener. And over time, experience has shown that there are situations where once an apology is tendered and accepted, everything is over. Discussants tend to forget even the reason for the dispute in the first place. So I think this is an eye-opener. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We pray you encourage this in your court. I don't know if you will not be descending into the arena. Yes.
To an extent, there are times that for rent cases, for instance, it gives room expressly for mediation and arbitration. So in such situations, the judge is not descending into the arena when you encourage parties to settle. And then there are moments that it's just, I'm sorry, I apologize, it won't happen again. And the whole dispute is over. So yes, it's not descending into the arena. The law expressly provides that it can be.
Wow, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Is there any other question? If not, we will round it up here. Mr. Chris Okpe, I don't know if you want to say something, maybe from your perspective, and then we have Hawa Usman. In the absence of any other thing, then yes. Mr. Chris Okpe, are you here? Okay. I can see my friend.
Mr. Chris is trying to speak.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
Yes, I quite appreciate my first time attending this mediation program, this platform. I'm really impressed by the speakers, and I believe it's a great challenge to us because this area is so demanding. There's much for us to learn. Don't know whether you're hearing me. We have much to learn from this area. I believe the next session will be more fruitful. Let's keep it up and pray for more grace in this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe finally, Sehun, would you like to say something? All the way from, or what I forgot. But hello, are you with us? Okay, so I want to appreciate all of you, especially our esteemed facilitators who carved out time, some early in the morning, some in the afternoon, and some in the evening, like Upasana. We're really happy to be privileged to have you on this panel. We are really, really grateful for your time. We appreciate all our participants all over the world who created time out of their busy schedule to be part and parcel of this training. We do this training as part of professional development for mediators all over the world, and we're trying to see how we can add up to what they have. Mediators and ADR practitioners have learned after their training in mediation skills, so that we can be updated. So we're really, really happy. The next settlement hour, when it comes, please, I will encourage us to invite our friends and families. We discuss interesting matters and trending matters in mediation and ADR, and we are hopeful. We've started discussing a very interesting topic already. Once we agree and we set the time, we'll reach out to you. And then for those of you who may want to have access to, maybe you feel you have attended something very interesting and you want to have a certificate of participation for this particular session, please reach out to us. And the number is there. It will be pasted on the chat, and then you can reach out to us, and then we'll communicate. If you have any further questions and you want us to reach out to any of the facilitators, I can see Upasana has dropped the link to the website. You know, she talked about scholarship, you know, for Nigerians or so, if I'm not mistaken. And then Mr. Joseph also is available. He has pasted it on the chat, you know, for any form of assistance. So please, if you need help, you can reach out to me, I can reach out to them, and then we'll get you whatever you need if it is within our power. So thank you once again for attending and being with us from the beginning of the training to this moment. Thank you. We really appreciate, we value your time, and we are hopeful that the next time we call on you, you will avail yourself. Oh, voila, I can see your hand up. Your virtual hand.
Yes. Can you hear?
Yes, very well. No, you are muted.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just want to tell everybody present to please tell their words, and anyone who is interested in the mediation training, as mentioned by Upasana, to not fail to register for the training. You will be glad you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So maybe Upasana will send me your number, and
okay.
Then we will see how we can encourage them on our platforms to register. And then I think you said something about scholarship. Maybe you can give a context to this, Upasana, before we, so that we,
yeah, all right.
So Nigerian participants.
Yeah, me and Wala, we were having a discussion, Anchang, and I'll be super glad if you can also jump in the discussion. Maybe I can create a WhatsApp group with you, Wala, and me there with my team. So as far as I know, we are way over time. So I'm going to quickly complete it. So Accords International is doing the training, the full training, where you get a certificate, international, being certified as an international the accredited mediator. And this training is from June 10 till July 2nd of 2023. And we are giving straight 50 to 60% scholarship to any participants from Nigeria. That takes down to the fees to around $100 US, which where the fees is $250 US. So anyways, we have kept the fees at a very lower level in for India also, because we want to encourage students and young professionals to join the training. And when I was having the discussion with Wala, we came to the conclusion that since mediation is even newer in Nigeria than in comparison to India, people will feel more motivated if there are scholarships available. So that's why the fees has even slashed 50% for anybody who is approaching us from Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for, thank God for the platform. So we will discuss further when you create the group, and then we'll see how we can push that to see that Nigerians take advantage of that training. Thank you very much. In the absence,
thank you, Wala. Thank you, Nanchan. Yeah.
Yes, in the absence
and just one more thing, Nanchan, Victor is the lead faculty, one of the lead faculties there. Victor is quietly taking notes there, but he's listening everything. He's taking.
Yes, okay, that's good. Thank you very much for your time. I think we can safely we can safely call it a day right here. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Edition of Settlement Hour.
Thank you. Take care. All the best.
Take care, everyone.
Buddy.
Stay in good health.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Victor Baba. Nice meeting you online.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. All the best.
Yes. Okay.